This little device may be your gateway to the cinematic look. But I'm sick of the term cinematic, and I'm sure you are too. But just because the word's been overused doesn't mean that we're not gonna push ourselves and test devices that we think might help us make better films, videos, and do better creative work. Right? That's what I thought. And so today's video, we're putting the L1 tuner by Module 8 to the test. The L1 tuner is supposed to replicate the Super Baltar look. So first we have to determine what makes that look so special. Then we have to look at sample footage. I've got a ton because I've been working with this thing for a month. And lastly, I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on this device. And this is gonna be the most unbiased review you've ever heard because we're a rental house. We don't really have any strong affiliation outside of affiliation to you, the creator. So when we review things like this, we're actively trying to determine whether or not this is going to be worth it for you in the long run. I've got my thoughts. I can't wait to share them with you. My name's Andrew. You can call me Pooch. Welcome to the Lens Rentals channel. So the very first question we have to answer is what makes the Super Baltar glass so coveted in today's filmmaking space? If you've watched a single video on this tuner, you've heard the creator say that the Super Baltar lenses were used while filming The Godfather. That's amazing, but that's not really helpful for me because one, I haven't seen that movie in years. I know, I'm sorry. And two, it doesn't really answer the question as to why this is coveted. I know the movie's iconic, but why is the glass iconic? Let's do a quick fact breakdown on the Super Baltar glass. Super Baltars were the industry standard from 1950 to 1970. These were originally designed for film cameras, so putting them on digital cameras really does take off some of the edge and sharpness. Cool, we love a softer look. That's definitely in style right now. These lenses have a distinct look because of their coating. They have a purple and blue coating, which gives them some phenomenal flares. These were known to be tack sharp in the center with some really interesting, nice and textured bokeh. This list I just shared with you only really scratches the surface on these lenses. There's even more history you could dive into, like the Bosch and Lomb Baltars versus the Super Baltars, but we're not gonna get into that today. But now that I have the context as to why these lenses were so awesome, I really needed to spend some time watching the films that they've been made with. Now, I didn't watch The Godfather because I just didn't feel like sitting around for that long, but I did watch Rush, the film by Ron Howard, which was shot with Super Baltar glass. Another film that you could look into by Robert Eggers is The Witch, which was also shot with Super Baltar glass. Okay, cool, I get it. The lenses are phenomenal, but you know what isn't awesome is their price tag. It's expensive to get cinema glass, and it's especially expensive to get high quality old cinema glass, and the upkeep on them can be really expensive. So enter the Module 8. There's a few different versions. There's the L1, L2, and L3. The L1 is meant to replicate the Super Baltar look, which is why we picked it up. Now, this is the EF to RF mount. When I spoke to my friend Jordan about these tuners who has experience with them, he did mention that the EF to RF is the only tuner that can do autofocus. The other two tuners simply don't have that feature. And while I know that autofocus may not be the most cinematic thing available to us as filmmakers, I'm a one-man band over here, so I've got to use all the technology that I can. But I will say, it's simply not as good as having a direct lens right to your camera that can do autofocus. There's a simple ring here that you can adjust, 2 being the lowest of the settings and 10 being the most extreme of this Super Baltar look. Now this is adding chromatic aberration. This is adding weird lens distortions, which I think is hilarious because 10 years ago, the YouTube scene wanted clean glass. We wanted to get rid of all those distractions. We just wanted the sharpest, nicest look. It's just funny to see how trends change. But no more yapping about trends. Let's go ahead and check out this footage. Straight from the jump, y'all, this is a stylized shot. That light over that little pour of the beans looks so good. And again, look at the bokeh, look at the center of the frame, look at the separation here between my hand and the background. And the chromatic aberration is crazy. Just on setting 4, and this was all done with the Zion Molus lights, so all unnatural lights. This last shot is overexposed and the effect is just off the charts. It was crazy. This next sequence was exterior with my friend Hayes working on this truck. You can see the chromatic aberrations, right? And you can see the effect in full force with the highlights. You don't really see much going on under the hood, which is fine. But like these shots of him, the contrast of his body against the light and against the truck looks really great. This is a classic Ford F1 if you guys are car enthusiasts. And unfortunately they sold it, but man, like this shot right here of him wiping the chrome, It just looks so good. The colors are popping, the separation looks phenomenal, and that weird bokeh characteristic of like halation and softness really shines. Look to the edges of this scene right here, and you can see again, there's texture to the bokeh. It's not over the top like the last sequence, but it still looks really good. Look at that can, how distorted it was. Really interesting device. So this final sequence was with a client. We were just shooting an interview on the R5C, and you could see in her initial interview, there was a little bit of detail going on, but here with Noah walking, you really can't even tell that the Module 8 tuner's on the camera.
We've got a lot of large plants on this order, so we've got a truck to take us along the ride.
Again, not a ton of noticeable effect here unless we're looking at the backlight. Here, Noah approaching, there's a lot of chromatic aberration, a lot of softness. In this bathroom here when we were installing these plants, it didn't look very dramatic, but again, with them sitting here, you can see the color, and also look at the plant on the left-hand side, you can see the distortion happening with the bokeh. Now let me tell you about my personal experience with the Module 8 L1 tuner. It was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed using it, though I will say, while I was behind camera and getting the shots, I often thought to myself, that is way too much. It's gonna be over the top, too dramatic. People are gonna think that it's just a messy shot. And that's how I felt the entire time filming, to be honest with you. Now, I will say that these thoughts were before I had watched the movie Rush and before I had looked at sample images of the Super Baltar glass. And without that context, I really was weirded out by what this lens was trying to do. At first glance, it's just a lot of halation, and at higher settings, just super soft images. But it became clear to me after watching the film that this was kind of nailing that look. Let's talk about some quirks. While using this with the R5C, I had a hell of a time actually seeing what the image was looking like through the flip out R5C screen. That's on me. I should have had an external monitor, but again, run and gun here, trying to be as quick and as nimble as possible with the limited amount of time I have with these products. I kind of just trusted the process. I was like, well, whatever setting I'm at, I'm sure will yield good results, or if not, at least I'll have something to talk about. Now, this next quirk is something that I don't think that they are shying away from. I think this is just a natural byproduct of using a tuner like this on your camera, is that I really didn't notice any of the L1 characteristics after like f2.8. As I stopped to like 4.5, 6.5, 8.5 to compensate for my exposure, I lost the characteristics. And I thought maybe I'd get them back in the edit, but I simply didn't. These are definitely designed for super fast, super clean glass. When I think of the L1 tuner by Module 8, I think of it as your gateway to the cinematic look. Wait, pause. Let's change out cinematic to stylized. The L1 tuner is your gateway to a stylized look that replicates some of your favorite scenes in famous cinema. How's that sound? Here's where I wouldn't use this on a daily basis. This would live in my camera bag. I wouldn't use this if I was working with corporate clients a lot, because this would be, I feel like, too stylized for them. Now here's who I would recommend using this, and here's how I would use this. If I was a travel filmmaker, if I was a wedding filmmaker, if I was an indie filmmaker, this is a great little tool to have in your camera bag to give a little stylized punch in, maybe on some of your more detailed shots. Or if you're trying to create a dreamy sequence for a wedding and a big expositional shot, you could really get some cool distortion with this lens. It's cool. I'm not keeping it in my camera bag, but maybe you will. I genuinely want to know what you think. Would you use this on a regular basis, or would you only use it for certain applications? Let me know down below. And with that, my friends, we are done talking about the Module 8 L1 tuner, a nifty little device and your gateway to a stylized look. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.